Is this really the end of crypto? Should you be running in fear, or could this be a time of opportunity for investors? Today, we are talking about just that. Plus, I am getting into 4 things to know and remember about the crypto market, especially after the fall of FTX. So stay tuned and let's get into it. Hi, and welcome to my channel. I am Leslie Quander, and I'm super excited to be with you here today talking about crypto, talking about building wealth, talking about the news, right? Because all of these things are things that I am super passionate about as a writer on personal finance and even business finance, crypto, and investing for various media outlets. As an investor myself, as someone who studied the market for years, y'all, I have lots of thoughts about this, and I definitely wanted to share them. So here's the thing. We've been seeing all these headlines lately. We know that there is stuff in the news. Some of it is really terrible. Some of it is really sad. I tweeted about this in part a little bit, right? When you hear about actual retail investors, people like you and me losing money, it is heartbreaking. And that happened because they had funds on FTX, which is an exchange. And it actually is not a US exchange. There's a US version as well that's caught up in all this mess, as you probably know now, but they had funds in the exchange. They lost the funds. It's super heartbreaking. And this kind of thing has happened, right? Multiple times this year, people have lost funds in these really big, like horrendous events. The Celsius collapse was another one. Luna was another one. Like, we have just been dealing with all sorts of stuff, all sorts of problems this year. And so, of course, when you see these headlines, like, wait for it, and I quote, crypto's downfall, and, crypto, quote, in ruins, of course it's scary, especially if you don't know better, right? Especially if you're new to the market. Of course, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what are these people talking about? How is this possibly something that I should be involved in, right? But what I want you to remember is that, and this is really big, okay? What I want you to remember is that no matter, what you hear going on in the world with these collapses and, people calling for regulations, which actually, may be helpful in the future, right? We've had Biden ask for federal agencies to look into crypto. We've got federal agencies already doing that. So we don't know, that could be helpful. But what I want you to remember, what's really important, is that crypto is bigger than all of these exchanges, right? Crypto is bigger than the fall of one exchange, the fall of one hedge fund, the fall of another exchange. And although these things are very scary, and these things can be, again, really heartbreaking, there's a bigger picture to keep in mind. So right now, there are thousands of cryptocurrencies, right? Some sources will say that there are more than 20,000, and those include cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which is the biggest by market cap and has been, followed by Ethereum, followed by other coins that I won't mention at this point. But these are digital currencies. These are bigger than any one exchange. And so exchanges are actually meant to be used for trading, right? For moving your money on, for moving your money off. Exchanges are meant for buying, for selling. When you're selling, maybe you're moving your funds back into your bank account if you decide to sell into cash, aka fiat money, right? But they're not necessarily meant for you to always leave large sums of money on the exchange. So when you hear about something like an exchange collapsing, one of the things that we learn when we first get into crypto, this is something that I learned years ago, and I've always heard people repeat this, and it's really important for this reason, is not your keys, not your crypto. And that basically means that it's really important to keep your crypto, accessible by you, for you to hold the keys for your crypto, for you to self-custody your assets. And so I'm not going to get into how to do that in this video, although we may do that in future videos. But I'm saying this to say that crypto is bigger than any one exchange, right? Because if you're holding your own crypto, say, for example, you had purchased Bitcoin on FTX and sent it off to your own wallet, the collapse wouldn't have affected that purchase, right? Because it would be safe and sound in your own little wallet, in your own little house, so you're safe or wherever you have it. Here's an analogy that I want you to think about when you hear these big events happening, right? So if you heard that, let's say, a really big bank in the United States had collapsed, I mean, obviously that would be horrible, right? And I'm not, FTX again was not a US company, but there are people who are invested with the US. But if you hear that a big bank in the US has collapsed, that's terrible. But you're probably not going to think, oh my gosh, I'm done with money, right? You're probably not going to think, I'm going to take this $20 bill out of my wallet and throw it in the trash because money isn't worth anything because this one bank collapsed. At least I hope you wouldn't, right? What you would probably think if a big bank collapsed would be, let me make sure that the bank that I'm actually invested in is one that I have researched, one that I'm comfortable with. Let me maybe make sure to spread my money around, right? To make sure that if something happens to one of the banks that I'm with, that I have a little bit of leverage in another one. You would probably come up with solutions to the problem, but you wouldn't necessarily say that money is dead, right? That money has fallen. And so what is happening with these exchanges, with these collapses, as we figure out what's going on, as we get the bad actors out of the space, is that crypto is sort of cleansing itself at this point. But I don't think that we should be dismissing it altogether, right? Because there's so much technology at stake. There's so much utility that we can use. There's so much promise for this market that at this point, I don't think that this is something that everyone should be running away from screaming. What we actually should be doing, I think, is learning more about the space. What we actually should be doing is understanding the landscape. And so I'm going to just run down these 4 really quick points for you right now. I sort of covered them in part, but I'm going to be really specific about them. 4 things to understand about the crypto market and investing, particularly after this latest collapse and after all of these headlines talking about contagion and how, problems are spreading. And they are. And let's be honest, right? If for institutions that invested in FTX, we are continuing to find out bad news about how other exchanges have been affected, about how other institutions have been affected. But again, that doesn't mean that crypto itself, that the underlying asset itself is dead. All right. So here's point number 1 that I would like you to remember is that, again, crypto is bigger than one exchange. Crypto is bigger than 2 exchanges, right? Crypto itself is a digital asset. The exchanges are the mediums, right? The exchanges are what we use sometimes to purchase it. But by the way, it's not necessarily only possible to buy on an exchange. People buy peer-to-peer. People buy, there are centralized exchanges, but there are also decentralized exchanges where things are going on. People are swapping in their own wallets, right? There are lots of different ways to buy crypto. People are even using things, as you probably know, like PayPal, like Cash App, right? So crypto is bigger than any one exchange. Second thing that I want you to remember, and again, I have to say, actually, before I really get into this too, I always say this in all my videos, I'm not a financial advisor, guys, okay? I'm super passionate about crypto. I've been an investor. I've researched it for years. I've been in the market for years. I've written about it for various media outlets, and so I take it very seriously. But of course, you have to decide what's best for you. You have to decide how best to handle your own funds and what works for you, okay? But I do love teaching about it, and I do love sharing information, and that's my goal in this video. All right, so number 2, storing your assets in your own wallet helps with security. So again, that goes back to what I was saying before about not your keys, not your crypto. For me, even, and I think a lot of us who've been in this space for so long, this FTX catastrophe was a reminder, right, that we can't necessarily be as complacent as we have been, right? And so if you are a victim of this collapse, my heart really goes out to you because you're not the only one. We know that. We know that a lot of us have gotten, a little bit more maybe complacent than we should have. And so I think it's a learning opportunity going forward. And we've seen news reports that large amounts of Bitcoin are leaving exchanges. People are learning this lesson, right? Safety is really important. So if we're going to move forward in this space, we need to learn about self-custody. We need to learn about how to hold on to our assets. But again, we don't need to throw away the whole sector, right? We don't need to do that. This is an opportunity to learn. Number 3, and we're almost wrapping up here, okay? Number 3, it's okay to be scared after these kind of incidents, right? It's okay to be fearful. It's a human reaction. You're a human being, right? We feel for other people. I feel for other people. You start to wonder, oh my gosh, what about my money? What if this happened to me? It's completely okay to be afraid. But number 3 really is, but you shouldn't let fear affect your investing decisions. And you will hear me say this a lot. I do hope, by the way, if any of this is helpful, that you like this video, that you follow the channel. But basically, emotions have no place in investing. And so if you're fearful, it's really important to, deal with that and to kind of manage your own fear before making any investment decisions, right? So there may be some work that you need to do, some mindset work, some actual research, some logical thought patterns that you need to work through, but don't let your fear be the reason that you stay out of a space that has so much promise and that is helping people, build wealth, and that has done so for many years. Okay. And here we are. We're almost at the end. Here is number 4. We are almost wrapped up. Number 4, the thing to remember after this FTX collapse, the thing to remember when you see these headlines about crypto being dead and it's terrible and it's awful, when you see these things, the thing to remember is, wait for it because this is a good one. All right. The thing to remember is sometimes the time to buy can be when others are fearful, and maybe even when you're fearful. Sometimes the time to buy is when there is blood in the streets, okay? And that's a saying that you may have heard before. Even when the blood is your own, sometimes they'll say. And so we're not going to get into, like in this video, how to kind of dollar cost average in, meaning how to buy little by little, because there are strategies to this. But what I want you to remember is that sometimes times of great upset, times of chaos, times of fear, times of uncertainty can be great, great, great opportunities for building wealth. And if you want an example of that, I can give you one super recently. I don't know if you remember the COVID crash when COVID was first discussed in the United States and the news broke back in 2020. Do you remember all the markets crashed? It was very sudden and people were freaking out. People were terrified, like markets across, crypto crashed, stock markets crashed. But what we saw later, right, in hindsight is 2020, but this is why I'm talking to you about this right now. Okay, we're getting our 2020 vision in the present. What I want you to remember is that after that crash, the markets did recover, and crypto in particular went on to make all-time highs. I'm going to say that again because I think that's really important, right? After that market crash, after all of that uncertainty, crypto went on to make all-time highs. Now, of course, past performance is not indicative of future results. None of us know what's going to happen, but my point is that these times of chaos and fear and uncertainty can be great buying opportunities, right? So use these times to research, use these times to watch channels like mine, to learn more, to maybe dip your toe in the water if you feel so inclined, right? It's always your decision. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this video. Thank you so much for being with me. Again, if you have any questions about any of this, feel free to drop me a comment and like and save this video. Also subscribe if you found it helpful at all, because look, I want all of us to win, right? I want all of us to be able to build wealth, to have time freedom, to move forward, to not be afraid, to not let fear stop us, okay? So that's it for now. Thank you for watching and hope to see you soon. Bye.